Always be kind and lead with positivity, is what I say in my older age now. Kindness is free. And yeah, show up, care. That's why we're there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of The Current, Touro University California's alumni podcast. I'm Glenn Faison, Alumni Engagement Director here at Touro University California. Joining us today is Dr. Jonathan Revels. He's joining us from Florida. I'm here on the campus in Vallejo, California. Dr. Revels is a 2012 graduate of the DO program here on campus and was our inaugural Alumni Researcher of the Year back in the spring of 2025. You received your Bachelor of Science degree in Chemistry and Biology from Florida Southern University, correct?
I did.
Okay, and currently you're an associate professor in the Department of Radiology at New York University. Is it Grossman School of Medicine? The Grossman
It
School of
is.
Medicine? Okay, and
Yeah.
you're also an associate professor attending in multiple departments of radiology at NYU, Tisch Hospital, Long Island Hospital, and New York City Health and Hospitals Bellevue Hospital Center, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also an associate attending in the Department of Radiology at NYU Langone Hospital, Suffolk.
Yeah.
Whew, you're a busy man.
Yeah. The appointments are based on credentialing, but they do wind up carrying the title. So it seems like a lot more, I guess, than what maybe it really is.
Well,
But
it sounds like it's probably what happens in the medical field as you once you're done with residency and you're off and running in your career that these things just you get these appointments
yeah.
and you start your especially if you follow an academic path, you start teaching. But I'd like to start with your time at Touro, if I may.
Sure.
Okay, so what brought you to Touro University, California?
So I grew up in Central Florida and went to college not far from home. I commuted to college for all 4 years, and I was ready to get out. I was ready to go as far as possible from Florida, which is ironic because I wind up back here anyway. But yeah, I was just ready to go. My now wife had gotten into UC Berkeley. She also had the itch to leave Florida, and so we're like, let's go to California and see what's there. And she did optometry school at Berkeley, and I was like, oh, let me see what med schools there are. And I came across Touro because of that, and so I applied. It was super exciting to get the interview to go because I got to then fly out to California to see the campus and everything. Really loved it. I will say, I actually was waitlisted initially. And before that, I was going to go to the Touro in Nevada, which still very excited about, because who wouldn't want to be near Las Vegas too, right? But yeah, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before classes start, I got a call, and they're like, we have a spot. Would you like to be come to California? It's like, yes, absolutely. And so it just kind of went from there. Super excited.
Well, that's great since your wife was close by as well. I mean, it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
easy to get from the Bay Area to Las Vegas, but why do that if you don't have to?
Yeah.
So while you're here, what clubs or interest groups caught your attention here on campus, and why did they catch your interest?
Oh gosh. I feel like I'm probably similar to a lot of people who go to medical school or professional school in general, where you just know you want the degree. You don't necessarily know the specialty, so you wind up joining every club that there possibly is. And sometimes you also wind up creating clubs or organizations while you're there, like Dr. Hendricks and I did with the Gold Humanism Honor Society.
Yeah.
I think I was a member of every single one of them my first year. And then it narrowed down to the Honor Society, I think emergency medicine. And then I did tour guiding because I really enjoyed the campus and wanted to be part of that. I wasn't the best tour guide, I will say that. James Wilson had to call me or email me a few times for being late, so my apologies. But Yeah, I think after the first year, you wind up figuring out what you want to do. I don't know if we had a radiology interest group at that time, but I'm sure I would have joined that too had there been an opportunity.
So, what was your greatest hurdle that you faced while you were here at Touro, California, and kind of the follow up? How did you overcome that hurdle?
Loneliness,
Oh,
not necessarily because I didn't have friends or social group, but both my now wife and I, we came across the country and it was just us. And so, yeah, like we leaned on each other a lot. Like I was going over to Berkeley every weekend, sometimes during the week. She would come, and then on the weekend she would come over to Benicia or Vallejo, and we would do stuff. And then from there, we started making our friends group and growing. But yeah, it was a lot of the loneliness, I think, initially. But it was good because now I encourage a lot of younger people, like take that leap. I know it's far, you might not know anybody there, but you'll make friends. Most people have a very easy time making friends from day one. I think the California mentality is very welcoming and open to that. And so it was just getting over those first maybe few months. New school, new location, you have to find everything, but just put yourself out there and you'll be amazed at the diversity that the student population at Touro has. Yeah, like again, James Wilson was from Georgia and went to Florida State University, and so he was my big sib, and it was like, oh my gosh, this other person that understands like Southeast part of the United States culture and everything, and so he was a great help to integrate.
I've heard from a number of alums that the cohort, you bond with your cohort. Some of them described it as like trauma bonding to a certain extent,
That doesn't
but in
end
kind
at
of a
med
positive
school.
way. It's like you're all going through this really intense program together,
Yeah.
and you're all like supporting each other as you're doing it.
You do. And again, like I said, it doesn't end at med school. If anything, it just begins there. And it's, we call it trauma bonding, I think, because there's not a better term for it. It's struggle bonding, maybe would be a better term,
Yeah.
a more PC term. But no, it's true. One of my really great friends from med school, Sandra Lim, she and I still talk to each other and text each other regularly and catch up. Like it was maybe last week that we did. And yeah, you find that small group that continues on, just like you have your small group of friends, maybe from high school, even elementary school, and beyond, that you keep in touch with. It's not that everybody you interacted with isn't special and wonderful, but you just have this connection, this lifelong connection with some people.
Right. So, what was your most significant takeaway from your time in the DO program?
That's a really good question. I would say it would be different for 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago me versus now me. So now me, I would say, just be kind, be open to experiences, be kind with everybody. Like you said, we are struggle bonding, we are trauma bonding. Past me shit would it would have been good for him to take that into account. Apologies to anybody and everybody that he did not. But yeah, I just think the best thing about Touro was just how kind everybody was. The professors being super patient. They're still there. And after going to campus last year, they're still so patient and so kind and calm. I don't know. There's something magical about all of them. They have this like tone and everything. I wish I could emulate that more.
We all strive to be better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go into your work history right now. You were promoted last year, I believe in summertime, to associate professor at Grossman School of Medicine. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You previously served there for, I think, 3 years as a clinical assistant professor starting in 2022.
Yeah.
I know you had one gig in New Mexico before that, but before we get to that, describe for us your postdoctoral training. So you finished Touro, you've You've crossed the stage. You got your match. You're off to the races. Describe
Yeah.
that those 4 years for us.
Oh, yeah. So
It's a little
after
more
matching,
it's a little more than 4 years when you start throwing in your fellowships, but we might as well
yeah,
include those right now as well.
yeah. So radiology is one of the longer training programs, depending how many fellowships you do. So after graduation, I went to Eastern Virginia Med School in Norfolk, Virginia, which was wonderful for my intern year and for my residency. And so that was 5 years there. Did internal medicine prelim year, so it's the same internship as an internal medicine
Okay.
residency. Doing the wards, doing the outpatient stuff. And then after that, transitioned again, still at Eastern Virginia Med School for diagnostic radiology. And so now radiology has changed since I did it. I'm so old. But in my day, it was 4 years of diagnostic radiology. So you went through all of the rotations. That includes things like neuroimaging for brain, spine, chest imaging for heart and lungs. We call it body imaging, but it's also called abdominal imaging, and that's for organs in the abdomen and pelvis. Then you have the bones and muscles for MSK. There's so many. And then nuclear medicine and interventional radiology, which I think many people are familiar with. That's the one that gets everyone very excited in radiology, or to do radiology as IR. It's that now morphed a little bit to where you can go directly into IR as opposed to doing DR and then IR. But after those 4 years, then I went to the University of Washington for 2 fellowships. And those were about 1 year, or 1 year each. And so the first one was for body. So that's abdomen and pelvis, things like your liver, your bowel, all that. Or one area that I'm very passionate about is gynecologic and placenta imaging. And so we did a good amount there that I got to participate in with one of my mentors, Dr. Moshiri. And from there, I went above the diaphragm for my second one and focused on heart and lungs for another year. Yeah.
Okay. So you start in Florida. You were in high school or college in Florida, California for med school, Virginia, Seattle.
Yeah.
And after that, you got your first hospital appointment as an acting clinical instructor at the University of Washington School of Medicine in Seattle. You did that for your last year there, is that correct?
Yeah, so at least in radiology, it depends on what types of fellowships you do as to if they're ACGME accredited or not. If they're not ACGME accredited, it comes with a clinical appointment title,
Okay.
and so that's where that comes from. But yeah, that overlapped with my cardiothoracic fellowship, but it actually helped because since I had already done my abdominal fellowship, my body fellowship, I served for a few days out of the week doing body attending work. So working with the residents and the fellows and stuff and teaching.
Okay, well, great.
Yeah.
From there, you were off to New Mexico, right?
Yeah.
University of New Mexico Hospital. You served there as an assistant professor for 3 years. University of New Mexico Hospital, University of New Mexico Sandoval Regional Medical Center, and with the VA at the Raymond G. Murphy Medical Center. You also held a faculty appointment as assistant professor at the University of New Mexico School of Medicine's radiology in teaching at the college, correct? So
Yeah.
describe for us your time in Albuquerque. You had 3 years there. You were actively engaged. You're done with your residencies. You're done with your fellowship. You're in your career at this point.
Yeah. I know you described my path so well. It's like all over the place, bi-coastal in between, which was one of the fun parts whenever I was a student at Touro. Our 4th year, we could do as away rotations in 2-week blocks. And so I just kept that traveling bug going clearly. But so at UNM, I was recruited there by one of my former attendings from Eastern Virginia Med School, Jenny Weaver, who I work with a lot now, if you look at my CV. And she was there. I had actually rotated there during med school. My now wife had rotated there for her optometry away rotations. And so we were very familiar with Albuquerque and really liked it. And yeah, it was an easy yes. I had already been in the hospital system. They remembered that I did not return my student badge. And so before I got my attending one, I had to pay $20. And this was years later, and they had still had it in their computer. But anyway, yeah, so that was fun. I got to be cardiothoracic chief after about a year because the person who held that position retired. And yeah, from there, it was really great. My friends and I got to build the section a lot more. We were scanning multiple hearts a day, whether that was on CT or an MRI. We built the lung cancer screening program, which was very robust and a great need in a state that really had a population who could benefit from those examinations. And yeah, it was fun teaching the residents how to take these modalities into their future practice so that even if they're not a chest radiologist by fellowship training, they still know how to do it and do a great job. So yeah, we did that for 3 years. Then COVID, of course, happened. And so after that, it was harder to get home to Florida to see family. And so my wife and I just talked about it and we're like, we really want to be closer to family. And that is what led to the transition to coming to Florida.
Yeah, so you're in Florida. That also, the timing is, that's where you picked up the work in New York, the various facilities in New York. So describe how that came into being and the remote nature of it.
Yeah, so I didn't know if I would want to do remote radiology. Depending on where you train, there may or not be remote radiologists that work in the department. Where I was at UVMS and then University of Washington, there weren't. And so I wasn't very familiar with it. But I knew that we wanted to move, and I knew that I still wanted to stay clinical, not just clinical, but academic. And by academic, a lot of people think research. And then when you say research, they think you're investigating things, forming hypotheses and crunching numbers and doing data stuff. But that's not really true. Now the term is scholarly because like you've seen in my CV and in my career, it's mainly in the education space. I like reading research articles. I like reading education articles and then summarizing them into simplistic teaching formats for trainees and even other radiologists. And so knowing that I wanted to stay academically inclined, I guess, I just hit the job boards, and NYU had posted a job. And I was like, oh, they're looking for a body person or a chest person. I'm both of those people. And I applied, and it was really funny. I got a reply back like, sorry, the job's been filled. And I was like, oh no, well, okay, well, thank you. But then they reached out to me over the phone and were like, but we actually are thinking of creating this new type of remote position. Would you be interested in learning more and hearing about that? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so we did the interview right then. I got the job offer pretty shortly thereafter. And my wife and I were like, this is great. Let's do this. And just went from there.
So you've been able to keep your career going in New York while living in Florida.
Yeah. It's the perfect job.
So you're close to family, just like you and your wife wanted to be.
Yeah. We see them constantly. And so it helped create a balance that I didn't know was missing. I'm sure my wife did. But yeah, it's just like, wow, these are things that I didn't realize I missed or needed in my life. And yeah.
So right about this time, you got involved with podcasting. You co-host, depending on what the topic is and who your guests are, a podcast called Radiographics that started in 2022. So we're coming out of the pandemic. You're starting a podcast. Tell us about the podcast. How did that come into being?
Yeah, so Radiographics is our preeminent educational journal in the radiology space. It's part of the RSNA, the Radiological Society of North America. It's one of their journals. And they have had a podcast for a while. I want to say maybe around 2019. And that was led by two previous associate and assistant editors. And as they were getting ready to rotate off, they needed new people and they wanted to see who else would be interested. And so they kindly reached out to myself and my friend Cherie Wang, who was also a co-fellow of mine at UW. And we were like, yeah, we can do some episodes. We've never dabbled in this space. We had written, we had presented a little bit. And so it's like, yeah, this seems like it should be fun and easy. It is fun and it does get easy. But for those who have never podcasted, it is a lot of work because you have to figure out how to translate written word into spoken word because they are not the same whatsoever. And so it's been a learning experience that led to becoming an assistant editor on the editorial board for Radiographics, which is such a huge honor. I never imagined my career would ever have that level of distinction. But yeah, it's been great. It started with me hosting some where I just summarize articles that are out there to try and bring access to more people in a different space, a different format rather than reading. And it's now become my friends and I try and give the space to people who maybe haven't had an opportunity to speak yet or be in this area. And so we actually reach out to people more now to make it more inclusive, more supportive for everybody at like different levels of their career. Sometimes we have trainees with attendings. Sometimes it's just attendings. Sometimes it's a group of people talking about their article. Or sometimes we'll interview people who have written an article just to bring different styles and flares to the educational space for it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we'll jump ahead to last year, a little more than a year ago. About this time last year, you were selected as the Alumni Researcher of the Year, and you were invited back to, this is the first ever award of that magnitude here at Touro, California. You were invited back to campus last spring to accept your award, but also to serve as the keynote speaker for Research Day. How did it feel to return to campus after so much time had passed?
It was crazy. Yeah, like graduated in 2012 and then 2015, so 13 years. But as I mentioned in my keynote there, add 4 years and I first stepped on campus like 17, 18 years prior to that. Yeah. Oh gosh. It was mind blowing. I drove around the island beforehand. Getting to go into a now coffee shop that was that house under construction forever, one of the old mansions, was amazing. It was like, oh my gosh, I get to be in this place now.
And there's a winery right next door, or wine tasting right next door.
Yeah, I didn't do that before, but maybe I will. And then driving around the island and seeing all the development that's happened, it's really beautiful. The sheep are all still there. They're bigger than I remember. There are more than I remember, but I do remember the sheep. Yeah, it's really crazy.
The turkeys are still on campus.
Really? There are turkeys? I never knew there were turkeys.
We're like a habitat for the turkeys. It's like a safe zone for them.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so interesting because I've actually been wanting to get into the Wild Turkey Foundation because someone mentioned it to me. My wife and I are getting really into nature conservation. I need to come out there and see these turkeys now. But yeah, and then seeing the changes that have occurred in the buildings, it's just mind-blowing. It takes time. Obviously, when you're there as a student, you're like, oh, why doesn't this happen? Why doesn't this happen? And then getting older, getting perspective, being like, no, this is on the timeline of how things progress, and getting to have that view now and seeing everything Dr. Hendricks and everybody else involved with the projects has done is just tremendous.
Yeah, you got here after Truett Hall opened, just after Truett Hall opened. It was brand spanking new last academic year. It took many years to take that, 19, I'm going to say 20s or 30s era building that was last updated probably in the mid 60s when the Navy was still here, and then sat vacant for years and years and years, and bring it up to current code. They basically had to gut the interior and build from scratch practically, saving as much of the architectural niceties as they were able to. Took a long time, but you were. It was fortuitous that you came back to campus the year that it opened, because it's a showstopper building.
Oh, it is. Yeah, seeing the new OMM lab that's there, I don't know if the other one is still in Lander or not, but at least the one that was there is beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's all up in Truett now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then seeing the sonography room and seeing the sonography students and them practicing and everything, that was really crazy and cool. All these ultrasound machines there.
Yep.
I'm just like, man, I don't even know if technology was this nice whenever I was a student.
Well, it's all state of the art up there right now.
Yeah.
The classrooms, the sonography, all of that
Oh, yeah.
stuff. So your keynote address during Research Day, you provided a roadmap of sorts for students as they pursue research while in medical school and beyond. Can you briefly outline that approach? As I recall it, it's like a 3 or 4 step kind of approach to keeping research manageable and ongoing, so you just don't get overwhelmed by it, but can still track forward.
Oh, yeah. So the first thing I usually tell people is they need to write down what their goals are. And it takes a lot of introspection, a lot of time to really figure it out, because a lot of people, when they want to get involved in scholarly activity, are just like, I want to publish something. It's like, okay, well, let's talk about the different forms of publications that there are. And suddenly they realize they don't know necessarily which direction they want to go. They just know that they need this PubMed ID, right? It's a very strong thing to have on your CV and with your publications for them to be PubMed indexed. And so I usually tell people the best thing you can do is find a mentor, and you just start by having a conversation with them. They're not necessarily your mentor from the get-go, because you need to do an interview and it needs to go both ways. They need to make sure that it's a match, that you're a match for them, and that you need to make sure they're a match for you, so that everything aligns perfectly. And once you have that, then you move on to, okay, what kind of project do I want to do? Do I want to do it in the short term? Do I want to do a long term? What is the end point here? And so if the endpoint is, I just need something on my CV that's a publication so that I can match, or so that I can graduate, whether this is in training or in school, et cetera, then you write that down and you talk with your mentor and say, this is what I need. What do I need to do to get there? And it's like, oh, well, if you only have a couple months, it's not going to be enough time to do data-driven research, because that can take years. People get their PhDs in singleton research projects, right? And even then, they're not really done. They always go back and revise their dissertations and everything.
Right.
But so yeah, it's like, okay, well, maybe we just need a case report. Well, what kind of case report? Well, what area do you want to be in? Do you need, in my case, imaging? Well, what kind of imaging? There's so many different modalities, and there's so many journals. And so the key here is, again, finding that mentor who takes your wants and needs and helps you figure out how to get there. Along that way, you have to make a plan. I was never a great planner, even in med school and even in residency. I kind of just, fly by the seat of my pants situation. And then in fellowship, which is when I started getting really into scholarly work, I realized, I have to write things down. I have to make my checklists and everything. So mentor, then get organized, work out the details on the front end as much as possible, because then it makes it so much easier to do the meat, the body of the work, and you just start making check marks as you complete tasks. And then the task is suddenly done. The check marks are really important because you can tackle the small tasks first if you want, or the big tasks, but it gives you something visual to cue off of, like, I did something. I moved the dial a little forward, and that's a good thing. Because otherwise, if you stare at everything, you get lost and you can feel daunted by how big the project can seem. And then build your team around it. Like, if you're a leader, if you have a great team, then everyone tackles it all at once, and suddenly it's done like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
While you're on campus, you pitched a plan to, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it here, it's an aggressive plan to make the DO degree free for future students here on campus, and to become the first DO school in the country to offer free tuition. we worked with you on that. You got it started. You're the face. You're the point person. It's your idea. I know you pitched it to Provost Tammy Hendricks, who's the dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine and also a 2006 alum of the program. You mentioned her earlier in the podcast. Why don't you tell us how that process evolved in your mind? I know you and your wife, Dr. Brown, did something similar at your alma mater in Florida. Is that kind of the springboard for this?
Kinda. I guess the real springboard was Tammy Hendricks here. I come in close proximity here, and then like just sparks start flying. It's like just, electricity going back and forth. And that's really how this probably started happening. Even almost 15 years later, not really getting to see each other or anything. It's just like, let's be inspired and do something. And so that's probably where it really started from. But yeah, my wife and I have gotten more into philanthropy. We're at a time in our life where that is now possible. We're by our undergrad, and so we like going to those events. And so, yeah, a couple of years ago, we reached out to them, and I was just like, we want to become active donors. We want a scholarship. And they're like, oh yeah, great. We'd love to have you donating. And then I was like, but we want it endowed. I want it to be everlasting beyond us. We don't have kids, and some people view their kids, their children as their legacy. And we wanted something to leave beyond us that has our name. And so we talked to them about the process of endowment. I got to learn a lot about how endowments work and how much it takes to start them. And it can be variable based on institution. And then what realistically the endowment can then generate in interest that becomes a scholarship, right? So that pays in perpetuity. And so learning that, we started one at Florida Southern, and we're going to start more. Going to Touro then, talking with Dean Hendricks, being like, we need to do this. And I really want to do it because my job does it. Like New York University for med school and even some other departments, it's free. They were very lucky in that the Langone Foundation and family donated a sizable amount of money to allow them to become a 100% tuition-free medical school. And it's possible. Obviously, I'm not a billionaire or, that well off to just go ahead and do it. But I think we have enough alumni who can do it. And that's what the conversation really was, not just with Dr. Hendricks and myself, but others who are in the room too. She's like, well, if we have 1,000, 2,000 alumni who can give $1,000 a year, which, again, not saying that's a small amount of money, but it equates to just under $3 a day. The old saying from when I was younger in TV infomercials, like for less than $3 a day, less than a cup of coffee a day, you can have a big impact. It really can. And so by pledging to give $1,000 a year, if we can get these 1,200 alumni or more, every year we'd be generating a new scholarship.
Right.
And, you do the numbers and it's like, yeah, but if we have almost 800 or even 1,000 DO students in the total college, that's $1 billion. That's going to take 1,000 years. And it's like, well, yeah, but maybe one year you give a little more. Maybe your family pitches in. My family really has been inspired by it and has joined the cause, thankfully. And so it becomes more than alumni. It becomes more grassroots. It becomes more local.
Right.
Maybe we inspire local people to also give. And, in my passing, I will likely, very, very likely leave my share to Touro and to the fund. Hopefully that's a ways off, but,
Yes.
there are ways to keep giving. Yeah.
Well, the campaign started October 2025, so that was the launch. And it's like, Doctor, just kind of recap real quick. We're trying to get 1,200 alums to donate $1,000, and that will fund one scholarship a year down the road. The interest that's thrown off of that investment will fund the first scholarship. And then that scholarship can be awarded, and if people continue giving each year, it funds the second scholarship, funds the third scholarship, the fourth scholarship, and so on. It's a big vision, but if we don't look for big things, if we don't try to do great things, we're never going to accomplish great things.
Exactly.
So there's information on our website, tu.edu, if you look under the alumni tab, or look under the Give tab at the bottom of the page is probably the easiest way to find it. Under initiatives, one of the initiatives is the Together We DO campaign, and that's the campaign we're talking about that Dr. Revels is leading. What ways do you recommend for alumni to keep connected to Touro University, California?
Social media, obviously, everyone has their opinions on the benefits or the downfalls that social media have on society, but it's a great way to see how Touro, like California, is supporting the students, how it's changed since we have been there. Opening the alumni newsletter or just the general newsletter and scrolling through it. I know it might go to your spam folder, but you really should find it and open it. There's a lot of work and detail that goes into it and provides some really inspiring stuff that's happening, whether it's initiatives that are going on, whether it's past projects that have been completed, or student club updates, really nice and cool things that they are doing to bring that goal of providing healthcare to the North Bay area, to the Vallejo area and beyond. It's really nice. I like seeing match lists still. I like hearing how our students are doing. And so, every year when that one comes out, seeing at least the specialties that everybody went into, maybe some of the institutions that they went to. It's very inspiring. It gives you a warm feeling of like, hey, I was a part of that.
Yeah, and a really high match rate. Match day is a fun day here on campus.
Yeah, which is new. We didn't have a match day whenever I was a student. And so that being there, it's great.
Yeah, last year a whole bunch of the students were in the Bay Area for match day, and they went to a place on the island and just had a ball. They just had a ball.
Yeah, that's awesome.
A bunch of them came back on campus. They were taking pictures at the monument sign at the entrance to campus and kind of checking things out. It's just a very fun time. Very fun time. So what advice do you have for current students? Didactic students and those that are off on their rotations, both.
Obviously study hard. I sound like my grandmother when I say that, but study hard, keep studying, find whatever works for you. Like, I like reading books. I like reading articles. Digital is cool, but I get a tactile sensation out of reading pages. And so if I can find printed things, I usually read printed versions. But find what works for you. Stay involved, try things, join the different clubs, see if you like it, go shadow, do a rotation, and really stay engaged during those rotations. Find out the full facet of the specialty that you may be interested in. Ask people about their stories of how they got there, why they chose that. It may inspire you. Being a radiologist, I will say not everybody who is in radiology wanted to do radiology initially. Quite a few wanted to do surgery or something else initially, and maybe they didn't match, or maybe they started it and it just wasn't for them. And they found that they really enjoy imaging because anatomy is familiar. It's fun. It's one of the most fun parts of medical school training is learning anatomy, and they enjoy pathology and seeing how those pathologies translate into anatomy. It's more tactile, I think. And yeah, like don't rule anything out. I think that's a big takeaway there. Try it all, experience it all. You'll really be happy that you did, rather than staying laser focused on just one thing.
You touched on something just then and a little bit earlier in our conversation that I've heard before, and I want to touch on it kind of to pull that thread together here as we're getting ready to wind down. You mentioned earlier that I think you rotated through New Mexico, and then they had an opening there at some point, and they knew you. You were a known commodity, and you got the job. Did I hear that correctly?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because it was familiar to
Right.
me. Yeah, that's an easy way to put in your job application. Like, and that goes for any job application, whether it's residency, internship, fellowship, or your future actual employment job as an attending. Being familiar with an area, having ties to it, really helps
Yeah.
ensure or helps give you a leg up. I will
Right.
say, because people don't want to lose opportunities to have somebody be there long term. Having family in an area, having a connection to it, helps endear you there, and so it just looks so great because it's like, well, here's somebody who's familiar. They're not just going to come here and a month later be like, I don't like the vibe. I don't like the area. Like, you already know about it. I knew where we wanted to live. We knew where we wanted to live. We knew where we enjoyed eating
Yeah.
in Albuquerque. And so there was just so much familiarity there. And then my friend Jenny being and attending there in the MSK division was
Right.
perfect. But yeah.
But part of what I wanted to touch on was when you're doing those rotations, and you mentioned, give it your all, because you leave an impression on the folks who down the road are going to be hiring. And
Oh, yeah.
so if you give it your all and leave a good impression, it helps maybe 5 years down the road.
Oh,
They have an
absolutely.
opening, and you're attending is now
Absolutely.
the person hiring for a position, and they remember you and they remember you fondly.
Yeah.
That matters.
It does. It does. Always be kind and lead with positivity, is what I say in my older age now. Kindness is free. And yeah, show up, care. That's why we're there, is to care for people, care for humanity. Um, and so, yeah, just emulate that the best you can.
All right.
And it will lead to great things.
Well, we're about at our time.
Okay.
So, Dr. Revels, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us on this cross country podcast, this episode, this edition of The Current. And I look forward to talking to you again as we continue with the Together We DO campaign to try to get that first scholarship funded and then move on to the second scholarship from there. Yes. And to everybody who's out there listening, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.